All right, we're back with the final 7 rounds with this wheel of hockey. And grab 3 color appropriate markers here that will line up with the respective teams. So with this one here, it's I think the prep's a little simpler. Obviously, I'm not going to put 14 names. I mean, I guess I could put 14 names on the board, the teams, the players that the teams have drafted so far, but it would just be small and hard to read, so I've decided against that. The preparation for this one, I will say I did it a little differently. What I did was I went through the names remaining. I put stars. I didn't cross anyone off, but I put stars, asterisks, I guess, by the names that are most likely to be taken. And also I penned in a few teams that I think would be more interested in that player. And again, it's all very subjective. So ultimately what I'm trying to do here is just put together a half dozen balanced competitive teams. The Red Wings, for instance, I was thinking of this actually as I was writing in their name there moments ago, that I really want to try to avoid, for the Red Wings' sake, having them called like the Detroit Dead Things for decades. So I don't want anything like that. I want to, anytime that I drop the dice, I want to think and feel like, pretty much anything can happen, and that a 6-2 verdict for a certain team over another, a 6-2 type verdict, is not a foregone conclusion. So anyway, I don't even know who's drafting first yet, so of course that could, like last time, there are several teams that are all interested in some of the same guys, some of the same defensemen. Today's draft will be more defense heavy. The forwards that will be drafted, fewer of them will see ice time. They might see very little ice time unless, of course, there is an injury. For injuries, I am going to use Larry Rice's, a.k.a. Mr. Aloha's, injury chart, his system that he came up with for the injuries. So I will be doing that. And okay, without further ado, let's get into this. So yeah, I guess I'll just tap the NHL logo here and away we go with it. So it's weird. It's weird with something like this when you're thinking about it for several days and then suddenly it's become official. So it looks like, actually, much like last time, it will be Boston. The wheel seems to like Boston. So for Boston, they need a third goaltender. They need a little bit more up front. They have, they have third defensemen and everything like that. I think Boston is pretty balanced at this point. They could go and look to circle back on certain guys. It's, again, it's all very subjective. It's really difficult to say. I think at this point, though, Boston just has the 3 defensemen, whereas some other teams have 4. I could look to circle back on a guy like Dallas Smith or Don Orey, and that's in fact what Boston might do. I even might look at someone who has a similar style of play, like an Ernie Brown, really, for the Boston Bruins. I could look at another Plager, another certain Plager brother. I think that a number of teams are going to be interested in him, and there are a number of ways that I could go with this. And as I'm saying this, as I'm thinking aloud, what I'm also doing is having a look at the ages, the respective ages of the players, and just deciding this is where Boston might in fact want to go a little young and might just want to acquire someone that they've had already. So going back and forth here between a couple of guys, but I think here at the end of the day, Boston might in fact opt for someone that they've had already. Again, it's so subjective, it's really, really difficult to say, but I think for Boston's sake, what I'm going to do here is return to their ranks someone who they are quite familiar with. And I thought I'd do it like the hockey guy this time as well and write in the name before I actually reveal it. So Boston, with the first pick here of the 8th round, they're going to go with Don Orey. And I'll get Orey here from his respective card pocket. Let's see here. So where... Orey is still pretty young at this point. He is just 24 years old. And again, he knows the drill. He can intimidate. He can block. So he can clear reasonably well. So let's get Don Orey out of there. Yep. I mean, someone like Ed Van Imp I'm looking at, and he's pretty similar, but we'll stick with we'll go with what we know here. So Don Orey to Boston. Okay, and next up, hopefully it'll be like Toronto or Detroit, or a team that Just happened to come in last. And it looks like it's going to remain Chicago just barely. So, yeah. So the Blackhawks actually, I think, let's see. So they got Dale Rolfe with their last pick. They have also Pierre Pilote, Pat Stapleton, and Gilles Marat. So the Blackhawks, again, they might similarly, they might look to someone who is young or he's been taken. I should actually do it. Let's put something there to indicate. So, again, a number of young defensemen here. It's really, kind of going back and forth. Take your pick. Yeah, it just is. It's a little hard to say here. So, I think Chicago, for their sake. I think maybe what they will do as well, they will go similarly. Again, I'm looking at a couple of players, so what I might do here is opt for youth here in the early going. And I'm going to say in this case, this will be another Plager. This time we're going to go. Actually, allow me one more quick look at his card here. See if there's anything that I was maybe overlooking that I'd forgotten about his card. Something that may confirm or remove him from consideration. So now I can't find his card, of course, now that I'm looking for it. It's and I don't want to reveal the name. Yes. Purely for defense, purely for stay-at-home defense. I think this is he only played in 32 games, which would normally kind of disqualify him, but I think bringing him along, especially maybe for the ensuing seasons, Chicago, I'm going to go with Bill Plager. So some young defense coming off the board here early in, or onto the board, I guess, in round 8. Anyway, I did say that I'd write in the names before. Okay, so that's Bill Plager. So that's who Chicago has taken. So next up here, goodness, we're 7 minutes into it. I swear, like, doing this, sitting here, it does not feel like 7 minutes has gone by. That's going to be Montreal up third. Montreal. Let's see. I do have certain names penned in there for Montreal. Montreal. They like stay-at-home defensemen. They do have the Mike McMahon experiment ongoing now, having selected him from an earlier round. They might want to circle back on a veteran. They're looking to some different players here, and who might Montreal want for this one here? Let's see. Again, because I've got the name on a few different guys. This is where, like, honestly, it gets really, for me anyway, it's getting tougher here, deeper into it. Montreal might go for a veteran. Actually, they might go for an experienced blue liner. So I'm going to look at a couple of cards here real quick for the Canadians, and then I'll quickly make the decision from there. A couple of guys. Okay, so yeah, I like the looks of that card, and let me have a look at one more here. I like both of them, really. They're both quite similar, actually. They're both quite similar. So I think what Montreal will do, they are going to go the opposite route here because their blue line is relatively young. So Montreal, with the third pick here in the 8th round, is going to, and I'll try to keep this color coordinated as well. With the third pick of the 8th round, they are going to take a veteran blue liner. Glasses and all, spectacles and all, they're going to go with Al Arbor. Let me adjust the focus there. So Al Arbor is their pick, 3rd overall in the 8th round. Maybe this is a little more thematic than normal. Maybe I am veering away from some of the BPA. Okay, the Rangers. Immediately I know who they're taking because this is someone, honestly, I was going to make up some story about how. And actually, if you're on Delphi at the time, it was up there for about a minute where I made up some story that the Floyd Smith pick submission was rushed. But New York's going to get their guy anyway. So, again, the Rangers, I think they want to acquire championship pedigree. So long before I've even found his card, without harping on it too much longer. The Rangers are going to go with Terry Harper. I think that Terry Harper will complement and round out their blue line skill set nicely. And to make it official here, and of course, again, now that I actually go looking for it, I can't find it. Terry Harper is in here somewhere. Okay, I'm going to pause. So again, Terry Harper to the New York Rangers. All right. Toronto and Detroit, I think I expressed earlier in this round, I was hoping that either or both of those teams would come up early. And it looks like it's going to be the Leafs with only the second last pick this time. And the Leafs, again, with some teams I kind of knew right away who they might be looking for. And with others, maybe not so much. But still, let me, just before I write this pick down, I'm going to just look here at a couple of guys. Let's see, Gary Doak is only 21, and I should actually remove from the list here. Let me find Harper. There's Harper. So Harper's gone. That would be a good pick for a number of teams. But no, I think Toronto wants to get younger with this next pick. Al Arbour's out of consideration now. Montreal wanted to nab a veteran there. And because he's playing well in 68. Good defensive defenseman. And Bill Plager's out as well. And Don Ori. Okay, so with this pick here, Toronto is going to select 24-year-old defenseman, Burt Marshall. Burt Marshall played for a couple of different teams. I unpaused that, right? Burt Marshall played for a couple of different teams in 68, Detroit, and Oakland. And Toronto's going to try to shore up their blue line with a youthful infusion and take Burt Marshall. All right, so with the final pick of the round, who is going to Detroit? Detroit, let's see. Detroit already has 4, so Detroit might actually circle back on another prospect. Detroit really wants to build going forward, so allow me another look at the forwards here. I think, yeah, this is someone they almost took in previous rounds, and again, because it is only 6 teams, so Detroit with the next pick is going to go, again, they're taking a lot of Minnesota North Stars. Maybe this has kind of become a bit of a strategy for them. Detroit is going to go with Bill Goldsworthy with the final pick of the 8th round. So, sorry if that seems like a bit of a strange 8th round, but again, Goldsworthy is going to be Detroit's next pick. They want to, there he is. They want to, I guess, just get younger. Goldsworthy was 23 at the time. His best hockey was still ahead of him. So there he is, Bill Goldsworthy to the Detroit Red Wings. And let's see here. These ads know me so well because I don't drink beer. Okay. Next up. This is round 9. Toronto. Toronto with the first pick of round 9. Wow. You know I was not expecting this. Now, who's Toronto? Toronto at this point, they're up to 5 defensemen now with Marshall, Barclay Plager, and Bill White added to Tim Horton and Alan Stanley. Not that they couldn't necessarily, not that they couldn't stand to keep adding to that, but Toronto, again, they want, Toronto really just kind of wants a variety of things here. I'm looking at what I might do. Again, they already had Keon and Ullman at center. Bathgate can also slot in at center occasionally, so there's really all kinds of different ways, all kinds of different directions that Toronto could go with this pick. What I might do then, therefore, is similar to what I did with Detroit and Goldsworthy. I think I'm going to give an experienced wing to Toronto, someone that I almost drafted in the 7th round for the Maple Leafs, and that is simply the experienced. He'll give some credible secondary scoring. Just another good wing to have. And the McDonald that I'm referring to there is actually, he's right there, front and left, not front and center, but front and left. Because I almost drafted him. That's why he's pocketed in there normally where he would not be. But Ab McDonald is going to be the first pick here in round 9, I guess. So Ab McDonald to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And is it New York or Boston? Boston, again, boy, they're coming up early in the wheel. So for Boston, because of that, there's someone I almost took for Boston last round. And again, he's available in this round. I could see him being a Boston Bruin. So the fact that they only narrowly took Ori over this guy means that since he's still available, let's give Boston another blue liner immediately. Let's go with Ed Van Imp. I could see him playing some good Boston hockey. Let's see. Whoops, I'm looking. I have goalies and defensemen in here. So Van Imp, you can never have enough good blue liners. And he, Again, similar to Ori, he can do a lot of similar stuff. He brings with him a little more experience as well. Put a few more points on the board, assists maybe in the early going relative. I think I'd have to actually look at the cards again. So Van Imp there with the number 2 pick in round 9. Again, the combination of considerations here, that one being the fact that I almost took Van Imp the round before. Again, if I'm Boston, if I'm Milt Schmidt, I might look at that. I might think, oh, well, he's still available, so why not take him? So sorry if this is going a little slow-paced. For anybody, I'm just trying to enjoy this. I think I've only paused about once so far. Feel free to, flick ahead and do whatnot, but I'm going to do it the way that I'm doing it. So it's the New York Rangers here. And let's see for New York. So they got Harper. So you know what? Same policy I'm going to maintain. Another one. I don't know, actually. Let me take one more look at the blue liners before I commit to this one. Yeah, so a bit of a story here because, and hopefully only a bit of one. And thinking about this, just how things come together strangely in my head, I thought this would be a guy that Montreal would be interested in, but they ended up going with Arbor because let's just say there's a rumor that an Ontario-born veteran defenseman, veteran of the original 6 era, really a centerpiece of the era, like Leo Boivin, Hall of Famer Leo Boivin. Yeah, he's 35, but the Rangers are in all-in win-now mode. And so Leo Boivin reportedly did not want to report to Montreal if he was drafted. He might have just retired. So the New York Rangers are going to select here in the 9th round defenseman Leo Boivin there, veteran defenseman Leo Boivin, so he can maybe... Again, the Rangers are going all in for a cup, the position they're in. They finished 2nd overall in the regular season in 68, and this is like the first week of April 1968. And they've just decided not to do a West Division playoffs and guarantee a West Division team in the final. So Detroit with the second last pick in the first round. Who else was I thinking about for Detroit? A few guys. There's some people they could circle back to, actually. Allow me to look. I think Detroit, it's about time that they take another youthful center, actually. Again, they have Delvecchio. I know I had Eddie Joyelle, but I think the time has come. Bruce McGregor is still only 26. But I think for Detroit's sake, I'm going to go a couple years younger than that and go with somebody that they had when he was really basically still just teething at the National Hockey League level, and that would be... And this is someone Montreal wanted, so given that, and someone that had Montreal come up earlier in the round, I was thinking of taking for Montreal, so I'm drafting both for and against my own team here. And given that, again, Detroit had to settle for guys like Rousseau and Duff when Montreal had a couple of players they might have wanted. So here in round 9, Detroit's going to take center Pitt Martin, still only 24 years old. And I'm assuming, again, if this were real, yeah, they could go back with a tried and true and tested veteran like Bruce McGregor. Bruce McGregor is a very solid option really for any team, a well-rounded player, and offensively no slouch. However, again, if this were real, given the Detroit's fate that season, they might just want some fresh faces just because it's like if you don't, at that point, it's like if you don't make changes, you're not really trying hard enough. So Detroit's going to welcome the change there and draft Pitt Martin, center Pitt Martin, 24 years old. Bit of a down year in 68. Bit of an underwhelming season, I think, relative to some. He was still maturing, though, at that point. Again, he was only 24. So Montreal, of course, because they just missed out on Pitt Martin, maybe they take Bruce McGregor. Kurtenbach would be an interesting choice. Again, McGregor is only 26. Yes, I'm looking at a certain 31-year-old. I don't know. Montreal might go defensive with the next pick. Of course, they lost Ralph Backstrom. Let's see how old this guy is. This guy's only 24 himself, so a bit of a spontaneous pick here. I think Montreal Canadiens are going to opt from the expansion St. Louis Blues, and they are going to take Terry Crisp here in round 9. There was another veteran defenseman they were looking at too, but maybe a reactionary pick, seeing Martin come off the board, although more reactionary would have been to take Bruce McGregor. But they're going to go with Terry Crisp here. So, again, it's very subjective. There's really no bad selection. There's really, none of these teams should really have a bad player. They shouldn't have a weakness anywhere, which is what I like when I sit down to roll it out. I want to have no idea of what kind of story will unfold, and that's just me. So Chicago here with the final pick. I think they had the second pick. I don't know. Do they get 2 of 3 plaggers? Is that the route that Chicago goes with this? I mean, they are now up to, they have with Rolf, and they protected 3 blue liners already, so they're up to 5. But Palat has to be nearing retirement at this point. So the Chicago Blackhawks here, maybe they take Bruce McGregor. You know, he can play multiple positions. He is still only 26, so I think I've kind of talked myself into it. I think here in round 9, just so that if for no other reason than I shut up about Bruce McGregor. He's a good player. Solid player, and again, only 26, so how can they really, you know, you could 15 goals that season, but 39 points, and he can kill penalties, decent defensively, can also forecheck, 165 shots, only 13 penalty minutes. He's not going to be a liability there. Some of Chicago's muckers might be, so Bruce McGregor, I think, makes sense for them. Someone that, if I'm being honest, which I don't know why I say phrases like if I'm being honest. You know, I think I'm pretty honest, but it's a habit. It's a nervous habit, I guess, nervous habit of speech. But to be honest, I was not necessarily considering McGregor for Chicago, but he was just on the tip of my tongue, and I think he slots in fine just about anywhere in this. So they still think I drink beer. They're about 15 years too late for that. And let's see here. With the 10th round, I guess we're going into round 10 now. So here in round 10, first up in round 10, is it going to be Toronto again? No, it's going to be Boston with that wheel love. So Boston, now they have Ori and Van Imp. I think they're definitely going to look to go back up front again. They're already very strong at center. With either wing, really take your pick. I don't know, is Boston as tough as they used to be? They've got some interesting choices now. They've, you know, somebody like Hickey, so they might want to, and again, I should try to dot off a few guys here who were taken, so this is a little easier on me, and I'm not staring at quite as many names. Hard to say if you're Boston. You probably look at age. Age is probably definitely a consideration at this point. I got it. And actually, this is someone that's been in their system. Wow, that name just jumped right out at me. Like a hip check, just jutted right out there. So I think Boston, in the vein of there's a certain team, a certain expansion team, and guys that I looked at and guys I thought, well, they would slot in well on Boston as well. But let's give Boston a good defensive forward, a guy who's really a jack of all trades here, a variety of them. And if you want to argue with me that he shouldn't have fallen this far, I think you're completely valid with your argument, and that's Gary Dornhofer. So Dornhofer is going to go to the Boston Bruins, you know, as proof that, again, I want all of these teams to be really good. Dornhofer could have been taken several rounds ago, but so many guys are relatively evenly matched for this. So Boston will opt for Dornhofer here with the second pick in round, with the first pick in round 10. What am I saying here? Getting ahead of myself. Boston, Gary Dornhofer will go to the Boston Bruins. So and New York, I feel like they're coming up early and they're getting pretty good wheel luck here as well. They've got Harper and Boyven, so they're up to 5 blue liners now, but they already also have 9 forwards. Is this the point where New York looks to the third string goaltenders, the third string netminders here, and tries to make a decision here on that? Let's see. I don't know. I mean, you can never really have enough credible guys up front, though. I'm looking here at some guys with experience as well, dual positional. Again, I'll be honest too. There I go with that habit of speech. There will be players who will not be drafted that you could argue, well, how come he wasn't taken? He should completely fit in somewhere, to which I would just say yes. Yes, I agree. But I mean, their backup is 36, so if I'm looking here, maybe I'm considering age as well, which actually, of the best of the remaining goaltenders, there's not a whole lot on the young side. So what do you do if you're New York? I'm going to pause, actually. You bring back a specialist who's enjoyed quite the career with them is what you do. I like this guy. This guy's known as the Eel. This guy from my Paradise Project, he overperformed. He had the best points per game of anybody in the league. man, if New York gets a chance to take him in the double-digit rounds, why not? He's next to retirement. He is one skate out the door. New York's going with Camille Henry here in round 10. Come here, Camille, they say. So they're going to get Camille Henry there. Henry can be a power play specialist. I think Henry will shine with occasional duty. Don't think he took a lot of shots that season. But again, he does have good card. He does have good numbers. He did just play 36 games, but he's Camille Henry. So Camille the Eel there, he slithers his way into this here in round 10 for the New York Rangers. I'm actually thinking of doing that in the final few rounds. I wasn't considering it as early as round 10, but there it happened. Because Henry, again, still a valuable card. He'd make a sneaky good sleeper late round pick for another team as well. But I'm going to hint this, looking ahead, probably some veterans that have a lot of experience playing with these teams, hint, hint, might go in like the 13th or 14th round. And probably without even naming names, you might have an idea for a few of these teams who I might be referring to. So Chicago got word from a scout, actually. Here in round 10, Chicago got word from a scout, but this guy might fall to the 11th round, so hard to say. Chicago, yeah. Now that because again, I'm continuing to think about this. I'm going to have a look at a couple of cards for Chicago and who they might want going forward. That's a really good card as well there. And he is still only, what's his age in this? He is still only, what team am I looking at here? He is, why is he not slotted in at center? That's a little strange. Huh. But he's not very old in this thing. Oh, there he is. He's 31.